I've been thinking about dark and light this week. Good job. Next Sunday is daylight savings time, when we turn our clocks forward an hour here in Ohio at least. And I'm certain that you have noticed the daylight hours have been increasing with each passing day. The mornings are a little bit brighter, and the evenings hold on to the light just a little bit longer, getting a workout. And though it is a challenge for some to adjust to the time change, we do look forward to more daylight hours, more sunshine pushing back the dark. The subject of seeing in the dark also brought back memories of my young scouting years, when I was a cadet scout back when, and I remember hiking at nighttime during our campout weekends. We did hike during the day in full sunlight when everything was clear, but we also learned to hike in the dark. My cadet leader, Christy, explained to us that we should bring our flashlights in case we needed them. You're on it over here. She explained that our pupils had this amazing ability to change sizes depending on how much light is available for us to see. When there's a lot of light, our pupils shrink down very, very small so we don't get blinded. This enables us to see different levels of light and darkness so that when there's a little light, our pupils get really big. So, hiking gear on, spider repelling stick handy, and flashlight in hand, we all started walking into the dark woods. And at first it felt almost impossible to see. The trail disappeared into shadow. The trees blended together. And the night felt thick and scary. But after a while, our eyes started to adjust, our pupils started to open, and slowly shapes started to appear. The outlines of the trees started to pop out. The curve of the trail, we could see a little farther and farther. And the faint glow of the sky beyond the branches was visible. It wasn't super bright. It wasn't like noonday clarity, but it was enough light to keep moving forward. And just as we were beginning to see really clearly, be able to hike without the artificial light, inevitably, what would someone do? Anyone know? They would turn on the darn flashlight. And for a moment it seemed to help. There was more brightness right in front of us. So we could see, if you were standing right next to them, you could see a little bit better the gravel. But everything beyond that narrow beam of light disappeared into the deep darkness again. The distance went black. Our pupils shrank with the sudden brightness of the light. And when the flashlight snapped off again, we couldn't see much of anything. The night felt darker than it had before, and it took a long time for our eyes to adjust to the natural light that had been there all along. And I think about those hikes when I read this nighttime conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus. In John's Gospel, we meet Nicodemus in the dark. He comes to Jesus at nighttime. And that detail matters. Because Nicodemus comes under the cover of darkness, carrying questions that feel too heavy to carry in the daylight. Maybe he's longing for some sort of spiritual flashlight. clear, unmistakable answers that will shine a bright beam on his confusion and chase away every shadow. But Jesus doesn't hand him a beam of instant certainty. He doesn't flip on the blinding spotlight. Instead, he broadens the vision. Jesus talks about being born from above, about the Spirit moving like the wind, unseen but real. Jesus stays focused on what he can see clearly in front of him. Nicodemus stays focused on what he can see clearly in front of him. But Jesus is inviting him to see beyond that vision, beyond his own understanding, beyond his own self-serving purposes. There are moments in our everyday lives when we do the exact same thing. Guilty. We want clear answers right now. We want the bright light shining on our one problem. We squint, trying to see and force clarity. I think you might have squinted once in your lifetime. But sometimes that narrow focus actually keeps us from seeing what's really important, the thing that's out on the wider horizon. We become blinded. We become blinded by the brightness of our own concern. And everything else fades into the shadows as less important. When I was hiking in the dark as a scout, the goal wasn't to eliminate the night. You can't do that. It happens every 24 hours. Here comes the night again. We couldn't turn the whole forest into daylight because it was night. But the goal was to learn how to move within the darkness, to trust the path even when it isn't fully lit. And over time, we realized we could see more than we first thought. The light was there, even if it was soft. Faith can be like that. There are seasons when we are adjusting. We might pray for a floodlight from heaven. We may want God to flip the switch and turn everything bright and obvious. But often what we receive is something just a little bit gentler. The steady presence of God, like the moonlight on the trail. Enough light to keep walking. Seeing in the dark isn't pretending that everything is bright. It's about trusting that with God's help, our eyes can adjust. It is about resisting the temptation to demand instant brightness that actually blinds us. It's about lifting our eyes up beyond the narrow human beam and remembering, as Psalm 121 says, remembering where our help comes from. When the light feels low, we take the next step. When the night feels long, we stay close to the one who walks with us. Even in the dark, God is not absent. We may not see the whole trail. We may not have that noonday clarity. But we can see enough light for the next step. Our help comes from the Lord, the God who made heaven and earth, the Christ who meets us at night, the Spirit who moves even when we cannot trace the path. So when darkness feels thick, don't panic. Let your eyes adjust. Look for the light that is already there. Stay close to the one who leads. Trust the steady presence that has been shining even when you didn't notice it. And may you find that what once felt like blindness slowly becomes vision, not because the night disappeared, but because you learned how to see the light that shines within. Amen.